It's great to be here, back in the old neighborhood. Our business from 1962 to 10 years ago was on the Willamette River, on the east side of the river, under the St. John's Bridge. So I spent some time in the neighborhood. Trying to remember the name of the bar over here. None of you guys remember the name. It was a great place. Let me just start out telling you a little bit about the history of the company. It was started by my mother's parents. So my grandfather had a shirt factory just outside of Munich, Germany. And in 1937, it was really a tough place to be if you were Jewish. My grandfather moved his family then to Portland because my grandfather's brother had basically been sent away to America because he was a problem. He maintained himself as a problem for a long time. My Uncle Max was a wild guy. I think that my grandfather ended up here in Portland. He bought a little hat and cap company. He basically distributed headwear and a few little accessory items in Oregon, Washington, Northern California, and Alaska. And the company was quite small. My dad joined the company after my parents were married, and in 1970, the company was doing about $1 million in volume. We were already here in St. John's. My dad died suddenly. I was a senior at the University of Oregon. So I came home to help run the business. My mom, who had not been in the business before, joined the company as well. And so with myself and my grandmother, who was still around at the time, and my mom running this business, doing about $1 million a year. Well, the first year we ended up doing $500,000. And then things got bad because about 3 months before my dad died, we took out an SBA loan. And needless to say, we went through all the assets of the company. And in 1973 or 74, we had a negative net worth of about $300,000, and the bank called our note. So we tried to sell the business. So that was really my MBA course, was trying to explain to a group of buyers who were looking at the business, what the business did and why it was interesting, et cetera. And they would always say, well, why don't you do X, Y, or Z? And this is pretty much, I don't want to do that. That's a great idea. Well, the long story short, there were no buyers. So our bank said, well, we'll give you a few more months to turn this thing around. And by the way, we just loaned some money to some guys who were starting a shoe business out in Beaver. Maybe we can get one of these guys to come on a pro bono board of advisors and help you guys understand how to do business. So we had one of the early Nike employees came on a pro bono board and really helped us to understand how to do business, what specifically you need to do, and how you need to operate a business so you can be profitable. So in many ways, we have a basic replica of the Nike system, which is to design and manufacture, to design and market from a central place in the United States, i.e. here, source globally and sell globally. So we do that today. We really sell our products 3 different ways. In the U.S., we have a direct model, meaning we sell direct to consumers, and we also sell, by far the majority of our sales volume in the U.S. is selling through retailers, so people like REI or Dick's Sporting Goods or the former G.I. Joe's, etc. So we sell in that model in the U.S., in Canada, in Europe, and in Japan, sell through retailers. And then in Korea, we sell exclusively direct to consumers. And then in parts of the world where you see the red dots, we have some retail operations and e-commerce operations. In the blue part, we sell through independent distributors, so companies that might either be retailers or sell to retailers. Those guys distribute our products in those markets. The volume outside of the U.S. is around 44-45% of our total revenues. And we finished 2011 at around $1.7 billion. So the brands that are collected under the company's banner are Columbia, which is around 85% of the total revenues. And we really focus our time and effort on what we call trying stuff, which is to be experimental and innovative. So when you look at our history of innovation, you may not be able to read this, but going back to 1991 when we started with our interchange jackets, basically jackets that are combined, and it was a real differentiator for us and a very successful item. In 93, we ended up getting into the shoe business, and then we added categories of technology to the products that we currently sell, and we have applied for a lot of patents and really changed the face of our business to be one that's quite innovative. So those innovations, in many cases, are invisible. So it's incumbent upon us to be able to, through proper marketing, et cetera, to be able to tell a story about the technologies that are in our products. But we've collected these innovations in 4 categories, called warm, dry, cool, and protected. So let me see what we've got here for warm. This is probably one of our most important and relatively recent innovations. I mean, everybody's familiar with a space blanket. Well, basically, our innovation guys decided how to build a space blanket inside a jacket to aid in reflective heat, so that the garments that we can make with Omni reflective are around 20% warmer than garments without that aluminum foil on the inside. The foil covers around 40% of the fabric, so it still maintains all its breathability. And of course, based on the fabrics that we attach the dots to, we can add wicking as well. So you think typically that we use only in winter, but we have a lot of sleeping bags where we can have significant warmth with much less weight. We also have developed a thermal insulation, which is under this Omni banner, which is much more efficient than other insulators. But again, the problem with these kinds of technologies like the thermal insulation is that it's invisible to the consumer. One of the important innovations that we've been able to add to our Omni collection is electric garments, which are very popular where it's cold, which is not necessarily here in this area, but in the upper Midwest and Northeast, although we didn't have much of that this winter, and then in Russia and parts of China. So this is a very important part of our business. We've got jackets, gloves, boots, all these things with electric heating inside. Again, under the category of invisible technologies, this is a waterproof, breathable membrane that we've added to our garments. Everyone's familiar with the Gore-Tex method of keeping yourself warm and dry and with some moisture vapor transmission. The Gore system is famous, but does not really work very well. This film is actually 50% air, so it's very significantly porous and allows for a lot of air to move through and keep it much more comfortable in the Gore part. We also have, and again, under the category, we're trying to bring some of these technologies out so people can see them. This is basically an activated chemical that's printed on the inside of that membrane I was showing you earlier. This breaks up the moisture and adds a significant speed to the evaporative qualities of the garment, so you can actually exercising heavily create a lot of moisture and have the garment move that moisture away much quicker than you otherwise can. A typical jacket with the coatings on the inside would have about the surface area larger than a football field, is the way that the chemicals are treated.
OutDry is a patented lamination process that bonds a waterproof breathable membrane directly to the upper of a shoe or a glove's outermost layer, creating a unique one-piece component and sealing all potential water entry points. The result is superior waterproof breathability, comfort, and fit. The OutDry process eliminates airspace created by standard methods where water and debris collect and cause weight gain and reduce insulation and comfort. OutDry delivers maximum waterproofing and breathability, so your hands and feet can do their jobs.
So we bought the OutDry company 2 years ago. It's a group of Italian brothers that developed the process to make footwear waterproof and breathable, not using that booty system that was shown in the film. So again, under the category of difficult to describe, but really terrific technologies, OutDry, which we use in both gloves and footwear, is vastly superior to the typical waterproof breathable booty that's used in footwear and gloves. But it's very difficult to describe, and we try to use these kinds of video connections to get consumers to understand what these products do. Omni-Freeze Ice. This is a relatively new product for the company. Many places in the world, in fact, probably more places in the world, are too warm, and people need apparel that can help them cool off. So these chemicals that we treat the fabrics with actually are sweat activated, so your garments become cooler once you wear them and once you actually sweat on them. So this is going to be a really important part of our growth in the business, especially in the areas where cooling is really important. Japan, as an example, there's a significant movement towards cool biz, they call it, where you can actually not have to wear a coat and tie to work. And you can be more comfortable with trying to save energy and electricity. And these kinds of products, these textile products, which are cooling, can add a lot to our revenue base in those areas. Another area where we're focusing is on chemically treated clothing to repel bugs. So this is a big problem in many parts of the world. We use people at Mercy Corps to help us test this stuff. But these chemicals that are applied are much safer than the typical insect repellent chemicals that are used, and they're much more durable. So the chemicals that we apply here are made from synthesized chrysanthemums, and so they're safe, but they also last about 90 washings of this apparel. So the other second biggest brand we have now in the Columbia family of brands is Sorel. And for those of you who grew up skiing here in the Northwest, or maybe lived in New England or in the upper Midwest of Canada, probably know Sorels, maybe even have a few Sorel boots. It was well known for the photograph there on the left, which was very heavy protective winter boots, and used all over the world in those kinds of conditions we see here. We've added a women's section to this product category, and it's been really explosive for us. The business has grown dramatically. We grew from like 60% last year on the basis that women need protective, stylish footwear, and so it's been very successful for us. You may know Mountain Hardware, which is a small brand the company bought in 2003. The business was doing about $30 million at that time. It's now up to about $100 million. It's really focused on the very top end of the spectrum in terms of outdoor apparel. It's primarily for alpinists that use this kind of stuff in conditions where they really have to be able to rely on the apparel working. So they also have a number of proprietary innovations that they put into the garments, and this has been very successful for us. Now, The Montrail is probably the closest thing we have to a real cult brand. This is a running footwear business, really designed for and used primarily for ultra trail running, trail running races of 100 to 150 miles. So this is a small group of people that they know the brand very well, and it's been very successful for us. So that's a summary of the brands, and what I've put together next, and I'm going to try and make this thing work here, is a selection of the company's marketing materials that really started with the first distinctive marketing campaign that the company ran beginning in the early 90s, which was using my mom as a spokesperson and really the basis for the company's brand and technology. So I'll start there, and then we'll go through 2 or 3 commercials that we made together as a team, and then we'll move into some of the newer work, which is really focused on the technologies. So I hope you like it.
Hi, I'm Gary Boyle, Chairman of Columbia Sportswear. My son Tim, our president, demonstrate our interchange system. The liner zips in for maximum warmth. The outer shell is weatherproof. Wear it together or separately. Best of all, it comes in dozens of styles.
I voted against that.
Thanks, guys.
Hej! Jag är här. Vi är hit och plockar de små sidobräckorna som ökar värme med 20% i kroppen. Det sker något vanligt foder. Om ni vill andas också, så det inte blir för varmt, så det är ingen roll i kallt utomhus, det är alltid varmt om ni hit. Öka! Det är så jävla okej. Åh, perfekt!
바깥 날씨가 아무리 추워도 먹는 힘만 입고 있으면 언제나 따뜻합니다.
Meet Wim Hof. For decades, he's trained his mind to help his body withstand the coldest conditions imaginable. He set 18 world records and baffled countless scientists with his ability to stay warm.
Is it hot out here? Or is it just me?
Wim has what he calls a mental thermostat.
I don't feel the cold right now.
Are you Wim Hof? No, you are not Wim Hof. That's why we created Omni-Heat Electric. It's warmth at the touch of a button. Wim may never need it, but when you do, we'll be waiting. Wim Hof owns 18 world records. He ran a marathon in the Arctic Circle with no shirt or shoes. He has a mental thermostat. Omni-Heat Electric has a button.
Me cold? No. Are you cold?
Now,
Omni-Heat Electric at the touch of a button.
I think that might be it. So the interesting change in the company's marketing campaign was really all about trying to get noticed and be different. So early in our company's career, when we really needed to be noticed and be different, the campaign for One worked well. And as the company's gotten bigger, it needs to have a broader way to get noticed. We need to be using some of the Omni campaigns that you saw, and especially Wim Hof, who there's a large article on the company and Wim Hof in the New York Times basically talking about the fact that we have an anti-spokesperson, and been very effective for the company. So that's the end of my prepared remarks. I don't know how much time I took to do that, but I can certainly answer any questions.
Absolutely. And so now we'll move into the question and answer portion. We have about 30 minutes to do that. We will have some handheld microphones, so if you have a question, please let us know. We'll get you a microphone. So who wants to start with the first question? Yes. Yeah, if someone would
Yes. That's. So with the company being around as long as it has and going through so many different developments, how has that affected the cultural environment within your company?
Well, it's, we've tried to keep the business and the passion for the products front and center, and it's been difficult as the company's gotten bigger. You know, we're obviously much different in scale than we were in 1970, and we have a lot of employees here in the Portland area, maybe 1,600 people, but there's almost 4,000 people who work for the company. A lot of them in Asia and Europe and other places. So it's important to try and connect people as much as you can to try and make sure that the culture is extended throughout the business. And I think to a great extent we've been able to do that, but it's challenging.
I believe that the Obama administration has brought out a new proposal for their budget, and that includes lowering the taxes for corporations. However, I believe that if you're a manufacturing company, you do business overseas, you can pay a higher rate than if you're a manufacturing company doing business in the United States. There are benefits for manufacturing in the United States. And I believe that most, if not all, of your manufacturing is done overseas. Would you consider moving more manufacturing back to the States?
Well, yeah, our tax rate runs today around in the mid-20s to slightly higher. And that's because we pay taxes in many jurisdictions around the world, primarily where our businesses are based. We pay in that local tax jurisdiction. But companies that are solely a U.S. company are at a disadvantage with the current tax rate. So it's very difficult, especially if that company is in Oregon. Would we consider bringing some product back here? The issues that we face in terms of manufacturing the kinds of products that we do, I mean, textile and footwear products, excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold. Over the last 30 to 40 years, all the investment in new technologies to make textiles, to sew them together, to weave them, knit them, all those investments have been made in Asia. So following those investments have been all the technical skills. So we can design a garment here in Portland, we can draw it up, but that's just one step in the garment's life. It has to go from a sketch to a commercialization process, and that includes all the kinds of technical tailoring and construction techniques, which are of a very technical nature. And those skills don't exist here in the U.S. anymore. They really exist almost exclusively in Asia. So it would be very difficult, if not impossible, to bring textile production at any scale back here in the U.S.
Going back to your story about how you had difficulty paying the SBA loans in the 70s, I was wondering what key decisions or chain of events you attribute to the company's turnaround.
Well, yeah, in the very early days, the year my dad died, we had a catalog of products, mostly headwear and accessories that was 56 pages long and probably included several hundred items, maybe 1,000. And there was no distinction between those products that we were offering and other products that retailers could buy anywhere from any vendor. So we really focused on reducing the amount of products we offered to just those where we had some true distinction, some true reason for being, and then we expanded the geographic distribution of those products. So, our customers, consumers in general, don't need another brand to buy footwear from. They don't need another brand to buy apparel from. You really have to offer a differentiated product with some true value in order to find a place either on a retail shelf or in somebody's closet. And so that's what we spend all of our time on, is differentiating our products and then trying to tell a story on these technical products in a quick soundbite that can make it important for a retailer or a consumer to buy the products. So we've all been focused on differentiation over the last several years.
In light of the economic situation that the country's been in the past few years, what's your outlook on higher end consumer discretionary goods, especially the Omni-Touch jacket that you were discussing? Is that really where you see the market moving to, or do you think that that is a niche market that will only be a small market, or will it grow to be a larger market, I guess?
Well, we think the size of the outerwear market is around $3 billion in the U.S. in that range, and we think we can continue to gain market share in that area across multiple kinds of products, so including headwear and gloves and footwear, all connected with this Omni suite of products. But it's challenging. There's great competitors, and we have to be better. So, but there's a finite amount of outerwear that any particular person's going to buy, and so we have to have a combination of superior quality and superior warmth. It's not as important here. If you grew up here in Portland, you don't really realize what it's like to be in some place where maybe it's minus 30 for 3 weeks. So we don't really need to buy jackets here, but there's many places in the world where you absolutely have to have a really good jacket. So those markets are available to us and growing. But we have to be successful in our niche, and that means to be better than our competitors in many ways, including stocking and pricing.
And then a follow-up question is, so different competitors in Portland who are working on outerwear, I don't know if you're familiar with homeschool snowboarding and other of the like. What are the outlooks on small acquisitions for companies like that getting your size?
Well, we've made a lot of acquisitions. We've made several acquisitions in the last several years. What we've learned is that, like many companies. Acquisitions are very high risk. They also take quite a bit of time. So we've really we've been focusing over the last several years when we look at opportunities to find either significant differentiation, like the outright technology, which is really truly an IP play, or companies that where we think we can grow the business to some significant scale. The amount of time it takes to do the due diligence and to acquire a company really is the same if you're going to acquire a big company or a small company. So the focus for us has been on fixing what we already have in terms of the brands and making those businesses run better and really not distracting ourselves with acquisitions unless they're really valuable.
Could you go through the process with us from innovation through test marketing to when you take it out, take the end product out to try to for growth?
Sure. Well, it's different today, frankly, than it was 10 years ago when the company was smaller and basically you had a small group of people that did everything. But today, especially as it relates to our innovation, there's a specific cadence to our business. So we have multiple seasons. So we have design groups that are responsible for putting out a line of product, which our salespeople will take to retailers and our own retail people will buy. And that line of products has to be ready to go to market. As an example, for spring 13, we'll go to market sometime in early June. So there's a date when everybody's got to be finished. Samples have to be made. We've got to be ready June the 1st, May 28th, whatever the number is. And those guys have to be ready to take that stuff out of the road and sell it. That doesn't allow for enough time in the innovation cycle to be working on things like omni-heat and reflective, which took a long time to generate. So in the last 3 years, we've really segregated a group of people and called them our innovation lab. These people don't have the kinds of high-pressure deadlines that the design and merchant teams have. They have the luxury of being able to work on a project that might take them 3 years to bring to fruition that can be really significant for the business. So we separate the innovation guys out there, out working on stuff that we're going to go to market with in spring 15 or fall 15. And then the merchants and the design team are working on stuff that we're going to go to market in 3 months. So that team, the team working on the products, they have to understand their businesses, their markets extremely well. They have to know the competitors. They have to know the price points that we're going to be selling at. Where is the white space for us to be successful? And then challenge their teams to be bringing distinctive, differentiated product to market. And that's where the rubber really meets the road is when we go out to market. And hopefully our retailers will tell us, yeah, your jacket or your shoe is better than the other guys, and we'll buy yours and put yours on the shelf. And so that's, I don't know if that's answering your question. It's a bit of a complicated business.
Hi, in your position of leadership, has there ever been a time where you just completely disagreed with your management team and your board of directors and really had to say, I want to go a different direction? And what is the most difficult choice you've had to make with something like that?
Well, yeah, there's lots of times when I disagree with the management. So that happens with some frequency. I rarely disagree with the board. So our company's a little bit different from most public companies in that the insiders own around 65% of the company. So our board, they always tell me, okay, well, we work for you, but because if you didn't want us here, you could get rid of us. But in fact, we have a very aggressive board of people who are committed to the business, and we're very fortunate to have them there. And they really understand what it is to be a board member versus a manager. Most of these guys have run big businesses and understand the role of the board. So our board offers great counsel, and they never try and get in the middle of running the business. They do offer important focus for management, including myself, on the returns that our investors expect and how to get them and how to provide those. So you asked me the biggest mistake I made. That's a long list of stuff. I guess we could probably be criticized for not spending enough time over the last 10 years on innovation the way we've spent it in the last 3 to 5 years. So if we were to point on a specific mistake that we made, we got very enamored with the big volumes that were offered to us by the value department store chains, Kohl's, Penny's, Macy's, Bon-Ton, and we got very enamored with that kind of business to the detriment of the company in terms of its product offering. So we've spent a lot of time bringing ourselves back into what we consider to be a high quality area, and that's been tough.
I just had a question with all the students here. What would you say to them in terms of, as they go out seeking jobs, what kind of people find success at Columbia, and what are you looking for when you're looking to hire new talent?
Well, obviously, it all starts with a great work ethic. So that's one thing you can bring that is sort of a minimum, and that's I guess important when you think about living here in America and the advantages we have as Americans and the level of comfort that we've grown accustomed to. And you contrast that with people living in China, India, Indonesia, wherever. And those people are extremely hard working, diligent, and there's a lot of very, very bright people. So you have to be prepared to compete with people who are working really hard. One advantage we have as Americans is the sense of creativity that we all grew up with here. So if you can be creative and work hard and be a good listener, those are kind of the basic tenets that allow you to be successful, I think, anywhere, but in Columbia for sure. And then I would just focus on those things which are enjoyable for you. So you have to work a lot and work hard, and if you're working at something that's not very much fun, you're not really going to be successful. So.
You mentioned that you had to basically run a business right out of college. What was one of the biggest things you had to learn right away that you was really essential?
That I didn't know really anything. So I don't know if I skipped over the part about us, my mom and I basically firing everybody in the company because came in from school and I had these certain ideas about what was important to do and what not too important to do. And the employees didn't disagree, and if they disagreed, we just fired them. And that was a problem. So I think being a sponge and just learning as much as you can and being humble about it is really important. So.
What was your transition like going from a small family headwear company to being a global outerwear competitor?
Well, so I had the advantage of being there the entire time and growing the business over the period was really, frankly, using those same tenets that we had from the very beginning, which is basically to be different, to be focused on being efficient, to maximize the assets that the company had. So as the company grew and we went public in 1998, our sales line was around $300 million, and today you wouldn't really be able to be a public company at that size because of the burdens that the federal government, the SEC, has on companies that are public that are very onerous and expensive. So you really can't be a public company, in my opinion, at that scale. But it really was a great education for me when we took the business basically from little leagues up to the majors, and we've made some strides along the way. We've made plenty of mistakes, but Probably the reason that we've been as successful as we have been is due in large part to our board and having a group of people who have run much bigger businesses, advising us and listening to those people's advice and counsel.
My question is, what does passion mean to you, and how do you show that to your other employees so they can feed off of that kind of energy?
Well, again, as I said, there's a lot of work that has to go into what we do every day, and if you aren't really passionate about what you're doing, work can be difficult. I remember when I was in college and didn't like it very much. My grades reflected that. So, I've been very fortunate that I've been able to do something, be involved in a business that was making great products and fun, and I could actually have a real, I could change those products. As an example, if you were a car dealer and you were selling, pick a car, and the factory sends them to you, you've got to sell them. You don't really have a lot of input on making the seats the way you want them, or the transmission the way you think it ought to be. So, fortunately for us, if we don't like the way the jacket cuff is or the hood works, then we change it. So we're very fortunate there, but you have to be passionate about making merchandise the way you want it. And it tends to rub off, I think, on people. It becomes more difficult when your employees are spread all over the world. But if it really starts at the top, in my opinion, you have to enjoy what you do, spend a lot of time at it, and people recognize that. I think they're encouraged and work harder because of that.
As you've built new product and shifted abroad to manufacturing and stuff, have you run into copyright infringement, patent infringement, and so how have you dealt with it?
Well, yes, we have. We have a very good sized business in Russia, and our Russian distributors thinks he has about half the Columbia business. The other half is counterfeit. And it's especially prevalent in Russia, in Eastern Europe, in Western and Northern China. There's big counterfeit problems. So we work as diligently as we can. We've worked with a collective group of intellectual property holders, which would include businesses as diverse as cosmetic manufacturers, Microsoft business group. By the way, Microsoft thinks they have about 5% of the market for Microsoft products in China. So we have to be very diligent, and we have to really try to force governments to uphold the laws that exist in the government. There are not as many, the rule of law is not as established around the world as it is here in the U.S. We have to be very diligent. Okay. Well, if there's no other questions, thanks very much for listening to me, and I enjoyed myself.